Hollywood has always sold us the dream: glittering lights, red carpets, fame, and fortune. But behind that picture-perfect image lies a much darker truth. For decades, some of the world's most talented stars, actors, musicians, and cultural icons have been taken from us in ways so shocking, so brutal, that the world could hardly believe it was real. These weren't just natural tragedies or quiet endings. Some were sudden, violent attacks that stunned millions. Others were chilling betrayals that happened inside their own homes. And then there are the mysteries, deaths surrounded by questions that remain unanswered to this very day. These are the untold stories of celebrities who met their end not through the spotlight, but through violence, scandal, and shadows. And once you hear them, you'll never look at Hollywood the same way again. The darkest betrayals don't come from strangers. They come from the people you thought you could trust the most. For some celebrities, the danger wasn't in the streets or in the spotlight, it was inside their own homes. One of the most heartbreaking examples is Phil Hartman. To fans of Saturday Night Live, he was a comedic genius, the guy who could carry a sketch with just a raised eyebrow or perfectly timed punchline. But off camera, his marriage was falling apart. On May 28, 1998, while Phil slept in his bed, his wife Brynn pulled a gun on him and ended his life before turning the weapon on herself. The story shook Hollywood to its core. How could the man who made millions laugh be silenced in such a cruel way by the very person he trusted the most? Then there's Stephanie Mosley, a dancer and actress who seemed destined for greatness. She worked with megastars like Beyonce and Chris Brown, her talent lighting up every stage she stepped onto. But in December of 2014, her marriage to rapper Earl Hayes turned deadly. In a fit of rage and jealousy, Hayes shot Stephanie in their Los Angeles apartment before taking his own life. Fans couldn't believe it. A woman whose career was just beginning was gone in an instant, and the entertainment world lost a rising star who would never get the chance to reach her full potential. Across the ocean, Chinese actress Bai Jing was becoming a household name, often compared to Yang Mi for her beauty and charisma. Her career was on a rapid rise, but her personal life told a different story. Her marriage to businessman Zhou Chenghai spiraled into chaos, filled with rumors of infidelity and control. On February 28, 2012, during a violent argument over divorce, Zhou stabbed Bai Jing to death before taking his own life. The tragedy stunned China, turning her into a symbol of how fame can't shield anyone from the dangers of a toxic relationship. And perhaps the most devastating story of all is that of Marvin Gaye, the Prince of Soul. His music was timeless. From What's Going On to Sexual Healing, he gave the world songs of love, pain, and hope. But Marvin's personal life was far from peaceful. On April 1st, 1984, during an argument inside his parents' Los Angeles home, Marvin's father shot and killed him. The world lost one of its greatest voices that day, silenced not by an enemy or a stranger, but by the man who had raised him. These stories prove a chilling truth. Sometimes the people you let closest are the ones who can cause the most harm, but betrayal at home was only the beginning. In the music world, fame itself became a target, and some of its brightest voices were silenced far too soon. Music has the power to live forever, but the voices behind it don't always get that chance. Some of the most talented singers and musicians of their time were struck down at the height of their careers, leaving behind songs that echo louder because their lives ended too soon. Take Sam Cooke, often called the King of Soul. With hits like A Change Is Gonna Come and You Send Me, his voice defined an era of passion and struggle. But in December of 1964, at just 33 years old, Cooke's life ended in a shocking and controversial shooting inside a Los Angeles motel. Official reports claimed it was self-defense, but rumors and inconsistencies have fueled speculation for decades. To this day, fans question whether the truth of Sam Cooke's death has ever really been told. Then there's Christina Grimmie, a young star who first captured hearts on YouTube before breaking out on The Voice. She had the kind of raw talent that made people believe she was destined for global stardom. But on June 10th, 2016, during a meet and greet with fans in Orlando, her life was stolen by an obsessed stranger who pulled a gun. Christina's story is one of the most devastating reminders that even moments meant to celebrate love and connection can turn deadly in an instant. Another tragedy hit the world of funk and R&B with Roger Troutman. As the frontman of Zapp, he helped define an entire sound, blending talkbox effects with grooves that would later inspire hip-hop legends like Dr. Dre and Tupac. But in April of 1999, Roger was ambushed outside his recording studio. The shooter? His own brother, Larry, who then took his own life. Roger's influence still lives in countless tracks, but the way he was taken left fans stunned and heartbroken. And of course, the story of Selena Quintanilla remains one of the most painful chapters in music history. Known simply as Selena, she was the queen of Tejano music, breaking barriers and winning hearts across the world. But in March of 1995, her life was ended by someone she trusted deeply, the president of her fan club, Yolanda Saldivar. Selena was just 23 years old. Her death devastated millions, and yet her music, her style, and her influence only grew stronger in the years that followed. Selena became more than a singer, she became a legend. Each of these voices was silenced too soon, their songs now carrying the weight of unfinished stories. And while the music world reeled from these losses, Hollywood itself faced its own tragedies. Stars whose rising careers were cut short in ways no one saw coming. For every celebrity who reaches the heights of Hollywood, there are countless others fighting to climb. And sometimes, just as the dream starts to become real, it's taken away in the most brutal way imaginable. These are the stories of rising stars who never got the chance to finish what they started. One of the most haunting tragedies is that of Dominique Dunne. At just 22 years old, she landed a breakout role in the cult classic Poltergeist. She had the looks, the talent, and the spark of someone destined for stardom. But in 1982, after ending a relationship with her ex-boyfriend, she was attacked outside her own home. Strangled into unconsciousness, Dominique never recovered and passed away days later. Hollywood mourned a young actress who had only just begun to show the world her talent. Then there was Rebecca Schaeffer, a rising star of both television and film. At 21, she was starring in the hit sitcom My Sister Sam and on the brink of a flourishing career. But on July 18, 1989, Rebecca was shot at her own front door by an obsessed fan who had been stalking her for years. The murder was so shocking that it sparked nationwide changes in anti-stalking laws and brought new awareness to the dangers celebrities face from unwanted attention. Dorothy Stratton's story is perhaps one of the most infamous tragedies in Hollywood. A model and actress with an undeniable presence, she was crowned Playboy's Playmate of the Year in 1980 and seemed set for a career that would take her from magazines to movies. But behind the glamour was a toxic relationship with her estranged husband, Paul Snider. In August of that same year, Stratton was found murdered in a brutal act of violence before Snider turned the gun on himself. Her story has since become a cautionary tale about fame, exploitation, and obsession. Finally, there's Adrienne Shelly, an actress turned filmmaker who had already proven she was more than just a face on the screen. Known for indie hits in the 1990s, she later wrote and directed Waitress, a film that went on to become a Broadway success. But before she could see her creation blossom, Adrienne's life was cut short. In 2006, she was found dead in her New York apartment in what at first seemed like a suicide. But police later discovered she had been murdered by a construction worker in the building. It was a cruel ending to the life of a woman who had so much more to give. These stories are some of the hardest to hear because they weren't just about fame lost, they were about futures erased. These stars had only begun their climb, and in an instant, everything was stolen. And while Hollywood has endured these tragedies, some murders went beyond personal loss, shaking entire nations and leaving millions in disbelief. Some tragedies don't just affect fans, they shake entire nations to their core. When a star becomes more than just an entertainer, when they symbolize pride, beauty, or national identity, their loss is felt like a wound that never truly heals. One of the most heartbreaking examples is Monica Spear, a Venezuelan actress and former Miss Venezuela. She was adored for her elegance and intelligence, representing her country on the world stage before becoming a successful soap opera star. But on January 6, 2014, Monica, her ex-husband, and their 5-year-old daughter were traveling on a highway when their car broke down. Armed men attacked, and in the chaos, Monica and her ex-husband were killed while their daughter was left injured. The murder sent shockwaves through Venezuela, sparking outrage over violence in the country and leaving fans devastated that a woman so full of life was taken so brutally. Another shocking case came from Brazil, where actor Jefferson Machado mysteriously vanished in early 2023. For months, fans speculated and hoped for his safe return, but what investigators eventually uncovered was chilling. His body was found buried inside a trunk cemented into the floor of a rented house. The gruesome discovery not only horrified Brazil, but also fueled endless debates about jealousy, betrayal, and corruption within the entertainment industry. Jefferson's death was more than a crime. It was a scandal that exposed the darkest corners of fame in Brazil. In France, the murder of actress Marie Trintignant in 2003 stunned the European film community. Marie was the daughter of legendary actor Jean-Louis Trintignant and an accomplished actress in her own right, starring in more than 30 films. But her personal life ended in tragedy when her partner, French rock singer Bertrand Cantat, viciously assaulted her during an argument. Marie later died from her injuries. The trial that followed captivated France, raising urgent conversations about domestic abuse, violence against women, and the failures of justice. And in Los Angeles, the murder of actor Lloyd Avery II struck fans of Boys N the Hood. Known for playing gang-related roles on screen, Lloyd's real life became entangled in the violence he once portrayed. In 2005, while serving time in prison, Avery was brutally killed by his cellmate, an ending that felt both shocking and tragically ironic. Fans who admired his talent were left to wonder what his career might have been if his life hadn't been swallowed by the same world his films reflected. These were not just celebrity deaths, they were national tragedies. Each case sparked outrage, fear, and grief, proving that fame can't protect anyone when violence decides to strike. But even these high-profile murders weren't the most mysterious. Some stories remain unsolved, with questions that haunt fans and investigators to this day. Some celebrity murders were so strange, so tangled in lies and unanswered questions, that they remain unsolved to this day. These cases don't just tell stories of tragedy, but they've become legends, whispered about for decades, with fans still demanding justice. Few cases loom larger than the death of Tupac Shakur. On September 7, 1996, Tupac was riding in Las Vegas when a car pulled up alongside him and opened fire. He was hit multiple times and died 6 days later. Tupac wasn't just a rapper, he was a voice of a generation, a poet who spoke about violence, injustice, and survival. Yet, nearly 3 decades later, the question of who really killed him still divides fans and investigators. Gang rivalries, industry feuds, government conspiracies, the theories are endless. What makes it even darker is that despite arrests being made only recently, for years no one was held accountable, leaving Tupac's murder as one of hip-hop's most enduring mysteries. Hollywood also has its own infamous mystery, the death of Natalie Wood, a beloved actress since childhood. Natalie starred in classics like Rebel Without a Cause and West Side Story. But in 1981, during a boating trip off the coast of California with her husband Robert Wagner and actor Christopher Walken, Natalie drowned under circumstances that never fully added up. Officially ruled an accident, the case was later reopened as witnesses came forward with new claims about arguments and unanswered questions that night. Even decades later, theories range from tragic accident to something far more sinister, but the truth remains locked away beneath the waves. And in hip-hop's underground scene, the murder of Jam Master Jay, the legendary DJ of Run DMC, sent shockwaves through music. In 2002, he was shot inside his recording studio in Queens. For nearly 20 years, the case went cold, with rumors swirling about drugs, debts, and betrayal. Only recently have indictments been brought against suspects, but even with developments, the details of who betrayed him and why remain shadowy. These mysteries are more than cold cases. They're scars on music and film history, with fans left to endlessly speculate. Because when the truth isn't clear, stories grow darker, theories grow wilder, and the legend of the victim only grows stronger. But even beyond the unsolved mysteries, some murders were so bizarre, so chilling in the details, that they feel almost unreal, as if pulled from the script of a horror film. When it comes to the world of music, fame can be both a gift and a curse. Some artists become so influential, their deaths don't just break headlines, they reshape entire genres and leave behind mysteries that fans still argue about decades later. Just after some time later, the music world was rocked again when the notorious B.I.G., Christopher Wallace, was gunned down in Los Angeles. At only 24, he had already cemented himself as one of the greatest rappers to ever live. Leaving an industry party, Biggie's SUV stopped at a red light when a car rolled up alongside him and opened fire. The parallels to Tupac's murder were undeniable, and many saw it as the final, bloody act of the East Coast-West Coast feud. The investigation dragged on, tangled in conspiracy theories and accusations of police corruption, and just like Tupac, Biggie's case remains unsolved, adding another ghost to hip-hop's history. Another shocking loss was XXXTentacion, one of the most talked about rappers of his generation. At just 20 years old, X had already become a lightning rod for controversy and conversation, adored by fans for his raw honesty, but criticized by others for his troubled past. Despite the chaos, he was one of the most streamed artists in the world, with music that captured the pain, confusion, and hope of a new generation. In June 2018, his life was cut short in Florida when he was ambushed during what police called a targeted robbery. Fans around the world were stunned. One moment he was teasing new projects and talking about turning his life around, and the next, news headlines declared him gone. For many, it felt like an artist just beginning to grow was silenced before he had the chance to truly show who he could become. What makes his story even more haunting is how much he had been talking about legacy, redemption, and even death in his final months. His music, filled with themes of pain and struggle, now feels like a chilling prophecy. Even in death, X's influence hasn't slowed. His songs continue to dominate streaming platforms, and his name sparks debate about fame, forgiveness, and the fragility of life. And it's not just hip-hop that has faced violence on stage. In 2004, during a concert in Columbus, Ohio, legendary guitarist Dimebag Darrell, once the powerhouse of Pantera, was performing with his new band when a gunman stormed the stage. In a matter of seconds, Dimebag was shot and killed in front of hundreds of fans. The horrifying attack left the rock community stunned and grieving, proving that not even the stage, the sacred space of music, was safe from violence. These assassinations weren't just crimes. They were cultural moments. Each one ripped apart fan communities, changed the course of music history, and left behind legacies that feel both inspiring and unfinished. But while these tragedies played out in public, Hollywood itself has faced murders so brutal they read more like horror stories than real life. Some Hollywood tragedies are so violent, so surreal, they feel like nightmares that somehow bled into reality. These aren't just murders, they're stories that read like horror scripts, forever tied to the stars who lived them. Perhaps the most infamous case is the murder of Sharon Tate. A rising actress and wife of director Roman Polanski, Tate was just 26 and 8 months pregnant when she was brutally killed in 1969. Members of the so-called Manson family broke into her Los Angeles home and unleashed one of the most shocking massacres in Hollywood history. The news stunned the world. Sharon wasn't just a victim, she became a symbol of innocence destroyed, her name forever tied to the dark shadow of Charles Manson's cult. Alongside Sharon that night was Jay Sebring, a celebrity hairstylist whose clients included Frank Sinatra and Steve McQueen. Known for bringing style and sophistication to Hollywood's elite, Sebring's career was soaring when he too was murdered in the Tate House. His death highlighted how indiscriminate the violence was. Anyone caught in its path became part of Hollywood's darkest chapter. Years later, another chilling Hollywood case shook the entertainment industry: the death of Lana Clarkson. In 2003, Lana, an actress and model, was found shot in the mansion of legendary music producer Phil Spector. Spector claimed it was an accident, but after years of trials and shocking courtroom revelations, he was convicted of murder. Lana's death was a reminder that fame and power can sometimes hide the darkest dangers. And in 2002, rising star Merlin Santana, best known for his roles in shows like The Steve Harvey Show and Moesha, was shot while sitting in a car in Los Angeles. At just 26, his life and career were cut short after being lured into a deadly setup. Fans were left stunned at how quickly promise and talent could be erased by senseless violence. These Hollywood horror stories blur the line between fame and fear, reminding us that behind the glitter of stardom lies a world that can turn dark in an instant. And as tragic as these murders were, they all carry a haunting question: why do so many who seem to have it all end up paying the ultimate price? If there's one thing these stories show us, it's that fame is never a shield. The people we admire on screen or on stage often face dangers the public never sees, and sometimes those dangers cut their lives tragically short. But while their deaths shook the world, their art still speaks louder than the violence that silenced them. Tupac's lyrics still inspire, Selena's voice still moves generations, Sharon Tate's beauty still shines in her films. Their legacies remind us that while life is fragile, impact is eternal. In the end, the tragedies may haunt us, but the stories, the music, and the performances they left behind ensure they will never truly fade away.